What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations, episode 150. That's kind of crazy. I can't believe that we are a century and a half old today here on YouTube. Mostly a weekly show, the original Legion show out there. There's a ton of cool Legion shows that you can watch these days, but the fact that this show has been going as long as it has, and all of the viewers and supporters have enjoyed it during that time, giving us the comments, the follows and everything, the likes, the dislikes along the way. We appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. For 150, I wanted to do something special. I wanted to bring someone on who's been a part of a number of episodes throughout the years that we've been doing it, someone that I always enjoy talking to, and someone who's made a really big impact, not only in our community, but also on myself personally with my customizing and so forth. Of course, I am talking about the Wolf King himself. Please welcome Len LaGuardia. Len, thank you very much for joining me for episode 150.
Hey, buddy. Congratulations on 150.
It's
awesome.
So I will tell you, when I hit 50, I had Eric Treadaway on. When I hit 100, I had Eric Treadaway on. Eric Treadaway's on vacation this week. So right on the run below Eric Treadaway, there was Len LaGuardia.
Well, that's certainly an honor. I can't begrudge that.
If you're going to be number 2 to Eric Treadaway, that's a pretty good spot to be in, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Len, I don't have a real, definitive topic of conversation today. I just wanted to kind of talk to you about things that are going on, talk to you about Cosmic, talk to you about the differences, like what you've been experiencing, creating custom parts for Cosmic, and all that good stuff. But the first thing I want to start with is an upcoming event. So, as a lot of people know, Four Horsemen Studios really kind of expanded our event schedule in 2023. We've, as a studio, been to a lot of new locations. We've done a lot of new shows: North Carolina, Atlanta, Michigan. But additionally, we've expanded our reach by doing what we call Legionnaire-led events or street team events. You are doing one of those coming up in a few weeks. Tell us a little bit about what you are going to be doing, where and when.
Sure. Retrocon is the event name, and it is in Oaks, PA, which is a kind of like a northern suburb of Philadelphia. So it's not actually in the physical city of Philadelphia, even though it's in, I think it's called the Greater Philadelphia Convention Center. Yes, that's exactly what it is, the Greater Philly Expo Center. But it's not really Philly. It's for those of us that are kind of intimidated by city driving, parking, that situation. That's not that. Yeah. Easy to get to, easy to get home from. Huge show, huge event. I've been doing it. I think I missed the first year that they put it on, but I've been doing it as a vendor every year since, and it's just a ton of fun. Lots of toys, lots of vintage. It's more con than other toy shows we're used to. It's not like that solid toy show. Has a little bit for everyone, so your family might like it too. There's cosplay, but it's really like almost like old guy centric, because it's everyone. The cosplay is Transformers or Thundercats and things like that. It's not like maybe as much anime that we older guys don't know.
When we were just at PowerCon, I don't know if you heard this, but on the side of PowerCon, there was also an anime con.
I heard it was huge.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told this story, but the Friday I got to the venue to set up at 7 o'clock. I was actually talking to people in line at about 6. So I went into the venue. I was in the venue all day because we did right from setup right to the show. And then we had our breakout session. And then Joe Vaspolo and I went to the private room to get ready for the Ox Crew reveals. So I didn't leave the area. I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't leave the area till about 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So I didn't see the Anime Con start. But as I was walking away, it was certainly going on. Because all those anime kids, they don't go out into Columbus to like see stuff. They stay right in the hotel or the convention center hallways, and they just take pictures of each other. So I was like walking, thinking I was like hallucinating or something. And you talk about the fact that things you don't recognize. Apparently, the purpose of this con was not to dress up like popular characters, but to bring like characters from Japan for animes and mangas that haven't like made it over here yet, to introduce those. So not only were they just elaborate costumes, like the little bit I know of anime for my kids, I didn't see any of that stuff. So
wow.
It was a surreal situation, but I digress. That was my little story. So
Yeah.
retrocon. So what
I heard though, I heard exactly what you're saying, that it was unreal.
And
it was huge. Like I heard it was huge. Yeah.
Yes.
And PowerCon was huge, but I heard that this was like huge.
It was.
Yeah.
It was crazy to have them like side by side. And they actually did something cool where they allowed on Sunday people that had passes for whatever, I forget what it was called, but the Anime Con, people that had passes from that could come into PowerCon and vice versa. So people that had show passes could go between
that's cool.
shows. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was cool.
So retrocon, so you're doing it as a street team member. There will be members of Four Horsemen Studios that are there too. Incredibly cool members. I believe Cookie will be there, as well as Joe Vassapolo.
Yes, my friend Cookie, my other friend Joe. They're both going to be there.
They're going to be there.
And I've known them longer than pretty much anyone Mythic wise. Well, Cookie longer than Mythic, but Joe was one of the first friends I made in the community. So it's definitely fitting, and it's gonna be cool. And there's gonna be other people there too, like Jonathan Hedgehog Action is gonna be there, and he's gonna set up with his camera and full video. He's gonna be running like lives from his channel the whole event near us.
There he is.
Anthony Houseal and Mark are going. There he is. They're going to be there as the Toy Forge with its own table, like with all his cool stuff, all his dwarfin things and everything you can imagine. And then we're going to have a separate Wolf King table.
Cool.
There's Cookie's Bricks.
There he is. That tracks.
Yep.
I said it.
You just made it not cool. Now I can't say it. Treat you like with my kids when I say something like that.
That's a little inside joke that I'm not really a part of it, but I kind of see it to the side, so I'm trying to get a little bit of it for myself. So that's cool. So it'll be, I love that. I love when we're able to do the shows, even something like ZoloCon or ToyCon, where the studios got the actual studio presence. We're all there. But Wolf King is set up, being able to see that whole customizing aspect alongside the figures themselves, that's very, very cool. So this will be neat because you will be there repping the studio, selling stuff. For anyone that it may not be aware, when we do street team shows, the prices on the table are all standard prices. They're all the studio prices. Right. So basically a standard $37 figure will be $40. A Legion Builder will be $30. They're those type of prices. So you'll have an array of Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions. Not to give anything away, we don't reveal the inventory before the show, but you and I went through the inventory yesterday, and it's pretty good, right?
It's real good. It's, as the
stuff.
Kids say, it's pure fire.
Pure fire.
Yep. and there's an ample amount too. So I'm gonna be hauling it. I don't know where I'm gonna
Yeah.
put Patrick. He's gonna be on the roof, but
Well,
we're
that's the
bringing
whole
everything
thing.
we can.
People need to come and buy that stuff because you don't want to take it home.
Exactly.
Recon Rage says, just got my black Cabal shirt from Wolf King. Will be sporting it at Legion's Con. That's a great segue. I mean, RetroCon is really the next big show that's in the area, and that's kind of going to be a nice appetizer. A lot of people, said the same thing at PowerCon. It was a nice entry into really the big Legion's focused show that we've got coming up in, crazy as it may be, a little over 11 weeks now before we're
I
ready
know.
for Legion's Con.
It's crazy. One more thing I wanted to say about RetroCon and Rick Rage putting that up made me think
course.
about it. Make sure if you guys come out, you wear something like Cabal, Four Horsemen, some kind of garment, something that we know who you are, because we're going to be looking for you in line, like the whole crew, or we're going to be, because this show's going to be mixed, right? And this show's big, and there's a lot of people that aren't, believe it or not, Legion's people. So we want to know when you're out there in line waiting to get in who you are. So rep that, wear that, it'll pay off for you. And if you know me, it's going to pay off well. So make sure you wear it, either Four Horsemen stuff or whatever, anything we know in our world.
Gear up.
Yeah. So anyway, Legion's Con.
Well, before that, I got an interesting question here. So you may have seen today, Len, that we announced that those amazing Tom Whalen Ox Crew prints that we debuted at PowerCon, the extras of those are going to drop on Store Horseman this Friday at 12 noon Eastern time. And also the extra skate decks. We did 2 skate decks for the show. We did the Erithere artwork board, and we also did like a plain white one that's like an old school deck. We kind of imagined it as a sticker deck. We were selling some sticker packs at the show, but a lot of people were actually buying it to have us sign them, which is always weird, but we're happy to do it.
Sure.
Dorklear is asking if you can give a little primer on what components to get to actually build a skateboard and not just a decorative deck. So these boards, Len, these are just the boards. So what do they have to get?
So I actually had the privilege of playing with these guys, like in George's office before you guys, and they're quality. Like they're real, like quality laminate, like I think 8 or 7 ply maple, like rideable. They're not decorative. I've had like some of the more like promo boards before, and you can tell like they're almost like, I always called them foamy. They don't have a real good feel to them. Yeah. They're like overglued. These are quality. If you guys wanted to skate them, you can. You need trucks, which are the axles. Yep. You need the bolts that bolt the trucks to the board. You need grip tape on the top.
Do when you buy the trucks, which are like the little like T-like looking things underneath, those usually come with the screws?
In my world of it, like they were always separate, but I think most skate shops will just throw those in now. They used to do like fancy different kinds that were supposed to be better or whatever, but they do have to be special because they're not screws; they're a T-bolt. So there's a bolt that goes through the top, and then the actual screw goes up through the bottom. Okay. You know what I mean? Or it might be reversed. I think it's reversed of that. The screw goes down and the bolt's on the bottom. And so they could come separate. It depends on where you're looking online. Yeah. And then you need wheels and bearings. And the bearings come, you press the bearings into the wheels. They might even have wheels now, without it. But I think it's so like click and shop anymore that you can just like kind of get the components from anywhere for them. You just want to watch your widths because the white deck. Go ahead, Jeremy.
The white deck is different. Yeah,
that's an old school.
You mentioned the grip tape, and we kind of glazed over that. So that's literally that gritty black tape at top. When you see skateboards and it's got that rough piece on top, that doesn't come on the boards by default. You buy that, put it on, and kind of slice around the grip tape to actually get it to the shape you want. So you can buy grip tape and put it on lots of different board sizes.
Yeah. You can get, there's like lots of videos on YouTube of how to like put the grip tape on, right? Yep. And they have it down to a science. And you know what? Like you'd be surprised. There's skate shops in everyone's town, like
Yeah,
local skate shops, and it's always good to support local business. And they're not going to be jerks if you bring a deck like that in and say, "Hey, man, hook this up for me." They'll
yeah.
put the grip tape on for you. They'll hook you up with the right hardware. Like that's always a good option, and you support local
Yeah.
too.
To your point, I will say that when we did the first deck, the first Aerothere deck, we did an Aerothere and a Lithia one. And Pete McCarthy bought the Alithia one, so he's got that one. And yes, Pete is the first one to have a deck. He was very about that. But we actually sent the other deck, or we gave it to Nate Barch,
Right. Hmm.
and Nate's son skates it. So Nate confirmed today, when they were talking on the afternoon show, Nate was in the chat, and he even said his son, this is like one of his favorite boards he's ever skated. He said it was really, really durable. Love the feel of it. So you are right. These are not cheap boards just made to have a graphic on it and hang it on a wall. You can totally do that with it,
Yeah.
but you can set these up and totally ride them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're quality.
Yeah.
They're
So
quality. Like the more rideable version would be like the art versions that you're gonna do, like the popsicles.
mhm,
The old school ones were cool when we were kids, but they feel really like
yeah,
big giant Cadillacs now. They're like,
yeah.
they don't feel right. But yeah, man, the other ones, I'm sure that thing would skate great. When I get one, I'm gonna definitely skate. I'm gonna put stuff on it. What did Cookie say? I missed it.
He said that we're too old to say purifier.
Oh, all right. Damn.
Uh, so Dorkler is saying he understands what components, just not sure about sizes. We're going to list the sizes for those decks in the actual listings for them.
Good. Okay. Yeah, because the big difference would be the truck width, and they're all going to be a little different compared to what you like to ride too.
Yeah. I'm going through the chat here, see if there's anything else. But yeah, for anyone that hasn't seen them, really, really cool. The decks will be $65 each, and the prints will be $50 each. We also do, for anyone that may have gotten in late, the original prints we did with Tom, the ones that were Kragnar and Kanox Vol, we do have a very small number of those left as well. That run, so both prints are runs of 100 that the studio had. The ones for Kanox and Kragnar, that run of 130 of them were uncut sheets, and 70 of them were cut sheets. So it's two separate prints. So I have it as an uncut sheet. It's in one frame. The cut sheets are just literally cut in half. All we have left are the cut sheets. So the big new Oxcrew print is 18 inches wide, 24 inches tall. The other two prints, they're half that size. So they're both 12 inches wide. 12 inches wide, 18 inches tall, because the orientation is different.
Okay. Yeah,
But
they're
they're
awesome.
cool.
I want to get them.
They're $50. $50 for the
Yeah.
set of the Grave Knight ones, or $50 for the Ox Crew one. It's absolutely huge. And we had mentioned this during the broadcast, but the idea that because this is Ox Crew Book One, we want to do a poster for all three of the books. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a huge fan of Tom Whalen's art. He's got a very distinctive style that we really like, and he's such a cool dude. I've mentioned this before, but when Tom sends us over the contract for the work, it's like a certain amount of money and a certain amount of store credit. Like he literally has us pay
Oh,
him
that's awesome.
partially in toys. The fact that we're dealing with someone like Tom is a genuine fan of the line. We started working with him because he reached out to us and said, I loved your guys' work. If you ever wanted to do anything, I'd be thrilled. And we were like, holy crap, we love your work too. So it's a
That's
great,
awesome.
yeah, it's an absolutely awesome match.
Yeah.
So
He's
super
kind of
cool.
localish to me. Not local,
Yeah,
but I mean, he's like an hour away,
yeah,
which is
I've seen
awesome.
him. He's come down to ZoloCon and stuff. I've met him there a few times.
Yeah, super talented too. He's done like the stuff he did for Hasbro for the classifieds was
Yeah,
awesome,
he did.
and the Power Ranger stuff for them.
Yeah, he
was
did all
really
the
cool.
Power Rangers Lightning series. He did a bunch of stuff. I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff for Disney. Like actually, when you walk into Disney, apparently they have all posters for the different rides. And I forget which ride it is, but one of the posters, as you walk into Disney, the main poster for the ride is Tom Whalen's.
Wow. Oh,
Which
that's
is
awesome.
freaking cool. Like, I mean, that's just neat. That's just to actually
Yeah,
be like, wow, that's my art, and that's there at the theme park. So
that's really cool.
very cool. Okay, so RetroCon that is coming up in a couple weeks. That's
Yep.
not the week of Labor Day; it's the week after. So
The week after Labor Day. Yep.
September
Yep.
9th and 10th, I believe. Check that out. Team Wolf King is going to be there in full effect.
Yeah, and if you're into celebrities, they got a lot. I think they have the whole like existing living cast of the Dukes of Hazzard are going to be there. Sam Jones, Flash Gordon, right? There's a lot of voice actor people.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty crazy. They have quite a bit of people like going at to this and vehicles and stuff like that. It's really neat.
So let's talk a little bit about Cosmic Legions, because I know when Cosmic first came out, I mean, you and I have been working together with Wolf King Customs for quite some time before Cosmic Legions actually came out and was debuted. So, we both were already very friendly and working together when Cosmic made its debut. And at that point, we had already been putting out, you had already been putting out custom parts for Mythic Legions for, a little while at that point, almost a year, a little over a year, I think by that point. So it was interesting because I feel like with Mythic, there was already a customizing community that, there was already a history of customizing. There was already a lot of parts out there for Mythics that you could mess around with and play with. But starting to do Cosmic customs and custom parts has been kind of a bit of a new experience, I think, because there was this anticipation to create parts for it, but they weren't out yet. So I want to talk a little bit about, how you've been experiencing that, creating parts for Cosmic figures, but also just your thoughts on Cosmic. Because I know early on you said to me, I love Mythic, but I think I'm going to like Cosmic even more. So now that you have them in hand, what are your thoughts on Cosmic?
Well, I have to say that like, growing up and my taste for like fiction has always been science. I love outer space, Star Wars, all that. So like that seemed to fit going in. Like, oh man, take my legions to space. I can't wait to see what we get.
Yep.
Once we got them in hand, now I did get some of the test shots, but they were just different. Like they were the same, but it's not the same as having a painted figure.
No.
So once I did finally get them, I was like, I don't even know how else to say it besides blown away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because of like what the actual like figure like represented as far as like a space alien or a thing, but it was just the build, the articulation, the way they look, the way they work. Yeah. It was just it's so different that I wasn't really ready for that. And it took me a week before my brain even started churning on changing things or even pop and swap. I wasn't even doing that the first week I had them, because it was just like, man, I gotta like love these for what they are.
Yeah.
Like and there's, I don't want to gush, but they're everything I hope that they would be. The potential behind them is like staggering. Like when I look at them and I think forward, from like in a similar way of point A to point B of Mythic, and if I scale that in the same terms, it's super exciting. You're like, wow, this is gonna go forward in an amazing way.
Do you have any favorites of that first wave now that you've got them in hand? You have opened all of them, right? I know
absolutely.
Well, you say absolutely, but because I'm the type of person that gets a new wave and I open them all immediately. You're the type of person that a month later, I'm like, what'd you think of that new figure? You're like, I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah.
You do that all the time.
I do that all the time, but it's because I like to savor like each one, spend a little time with it. I feel like if I rush it, it's just kind of like I'll forget about it. I rushed the engineer, I'll admit, and I kind of forgot about the poor engineer. Like I kind of set it to the side, and I still haven't messed with it a lot. But the other ones, like I'll open up one a night, and I'll just kind of like live with it for a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and out of them though, I will say that the first I started in reverse order of like my anticipation.
Okay.
And I started with you have to help me with the names because I don't say things right, but Vorga.
Yeah, that's
because I I wasn't super excited for her.
Most people weren't, but
And it was
she's one that a lot of people, once they got open, were like, "Oh my goodness, I love this figure."
yeah. So I say I did it first because I'm like, all right, let's get that one first. And well,
You
that was wrong because it ends up being like the
your mask off.
yeah, mask off.
You know what
Because
I've seen? I've seen some people actually use the mask on with like the brute Apharius body and make like use this head as a male version of this race, which is
oh,
kind of cool.
that is cool. I don't think I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone did a custom of it where they called it like Vorga and like Varga or something like that. Or it
Oh,
was something
maybe I
like that,
did.
where they
Yeah.
kind of made like a brother and sister team.
Oh, yeah. Now that you say that, I do. I definitely remember seeing
It
it.
was cool. It was real
Yeah.
cool.
So this one to open first was funny because it's different, like right, like so it has the
Yep.
unique torso.
Yep.
The legs are different because it was my first one, so you're like wow. And yeah, like this one blew me away.
Yeah.
I declare this one my sleeper because this was the one I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, and I love it way more than I did.
Oddly enough, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but two very, very common aspects of Legion's figures are pauldrons and neck collars. This is the only figure in the wave with a pauldrons and a typical neck collar.
Yep. Yep. I noticed that too. And it's funny because she has those like the torso has those built-in little shoulder paddy
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that like I don't know how they tooled that, and that's interesting because it had to be tooled all in one part, and it's pretty impressive that they were able to do that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to like pick Chris or Eric's brain on how that happened because that's a pretty weird thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she was definitely, and then to be introduced to her, you have so many new things that like I was like, what the hell? Because she's got the belt, she has the armor on the thighs, everything's different. Everything's different.
Yeah. For sure.
And then I just kind of like went through them, and I think I did the Sentry next, and he's awesome. Like there's nothing to dislike with the Sentry. Like I think it's the right balance of accessories
Yep.
to non-paint, so the value's all there because he gets more accessories than others. The sniper rifle's awesome because to
Yep.
include that in a first wave, like if this was a military based like toy line, they don't even have a sniper in the first wave. Like it's just like that's like really down the line, and to do like snipers in the beginning was just
Yeah.
awesome.
You like
And
this one a lot. This is your
that's my favorite, I
so
think.
this one has grown on me a lot. I understood the attraction to the Sentry out of the gate because it is the one that is the most human looking head to toe that you pop that Attila head on or whatever, a custom head. And yeah, absolutely. You can make your Space Marines. But this one has definitely started to grow on me. The only thing I think I wish for this is I'm such a fan of the two-toed feet that I kind of wish this one had the two-toed feet.
Okay, yeah.
Like the ones that Thygar comes with, or the
Yeah.
bugs.
And the
Yeah.
bugs, yeah. I could see that. I mean, well, make one with white two-toed feet
Well,
later.
one thing I did like about this, which I didn't even realize at first, is he comes with the regular feet, but he comes with the two-fingered hands, right?
Yes, yeah.
But the hands pack has regular white hands in it. So you can actually, like this one I have here, like I have two of them on display. So the one that's got the more alien head, I left the two-fingered hands on. But for this one, I put the normal five-fingered hands on just because I felt like I wanted it to make it look like it was two different races.
That's cool. It's funny because I didn't notice that with the hands until someone asked it in the Cabal the other day.
Oh, really?
If it was supposed to be that way, and I'm like, what's this guy talking about? Like, what's he saying?
Yeah.
There's five fingers. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize.
I almost wish, and I didn't realize we were doing that at first, but I almost wish we would have done that for the other hands as well. That like the Sentry hands would have had some two-fingered ones in it or whatever. It would have been nice to be able to mix and match a little bit the way that we could with that. But yeah, he's definitely one that I
Yeah.
know you've said you like, and I dig it as well.
Yeah, I really like it. Grew on me a lot, and I actually don't have it here because I already tore that him apart for the Ish contest.
Dibs, I think Dub's got a message for you saying, appreciate all the goodies and taking care of my girls with the recent order.
Big Dub.
That's got to be for you. Yeah, so Hedgehog says the white with the metallic blue and translucent blue is a really striking combo. Yeah,
Forget
when I
about it.
first saw this in hand, that kind of like shimmery look that it had on the body, I really really liked that. I've got a custom I'm working on with one of these right now, and it's it's been fun to work with these new parts. I was talking to Eric Miller today, actually. There are so many details on these that, like Eric said, you almost have to show a little bit of restraint because you could very clearly just keep going and keep going. There's an artist in the Cabal that was on the Shooting the Shelf show recently, Scott Wilson, I believe his name is, and he's shown some recently. He did the one that looks like Tron, and he did
Oh
one
yeah,
that
yep.
kind of looks like the Iron Man armor.
Hmm.
Super cool guy. I met him down at Heroes Con. But actually, I met him at Toylanta and at Heroes Con. But he has shown just like I'm going to paint every single detail on the figure, and it's incredibly impressive to see that there are so many new little details on these bodies.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible. And you have to be careful. You need a little color theory too, because if you go nuts, you can really make a mess of it probably. Because there's just a lot going on. You know, like it. I've seen some cool stuff. I think that's the other thing with Cosmic. That's just I'm actually overwhelmed and blown away by the community because it's like a whole new set of people that we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And I'm not saying we know everybody, but we've been
Sure,
around,
there's a
right?
lot.
And we know
Yep.
like who makes what, and we see stuff in the Cabal, and we're like, oh, Eric made this awesome, this and this. But like now with Cosmic and the Cosmic Cabal, we're like, I'm like seeing people, I'm like, who's this guy and where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Like which shows you that there's new people coming in to it, right? Like from that didn't maybe they just weren't into sword and sandals. So
Yeah.
now there's like this new creative group of people coming into the Cosmic because they're more into Cosmic, and I think that's really neat because it's like showing you that it
Yep.
can cross boundaries.
Yeah. Correct myself. Scott Warren is his name.
Okay.
So you didn't pick my favorite of the wave, which is the this one. I got to reach back. The Thygar Volcatar, the first, the kind of the spacesuit Thygar.
Yeah.
That specifically with the unique space helmet, that is my personal favorite.
Yeah, I will be honest with you, when I opened him up, I was blown away because he's got so much amazing paint app that it's like, wow. And then he comes with like, I don't want to say it and offend anyone, but he comes with almost too many parts. Like he's got so many freaking parts.
He's
And
got two great heads, and you're like, oh, which one do I use?
yeah, he's got and two necks.
Yep.
And if you take that neck off, I mean that was like one of the first things I did was, well, not really first, but if you take that neck off, it opens up the character to a whole new level because you can put anything on it. Like I was putting the heads pack, All Stars 5 head pack heads on it.
Yep.
When you get that off, because it comes with necks, right? So you
Yep.
get the black neck on the cat.
Drop it on, totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just it makes it like, hello, now I can put any head on it, and it's like,
Well, yeah. I mean, I showed this one recently. This kind of like rock like dragon head. That's a
Yep.
wolf piece that this one really flew under the radar. This was one that people probably don't know this, but we originally did that for troll scale.
absolutely, yeah,
And then, Brian from CB Make started doing all his troll dragons, and we just lost our taste for it. We were like, well, he's already doing it. We're not going to go out there and, copy what he's doing, kind of. It's a different version, of course, but we didn't really want to do that. So it kind of sat around for a little while, and then you reformatted it. It was sculpted by Walter at Mass Customs.
Mm-hmm.
You reformatted it, and we did release it. I did show it at Legion's Con last year on like a dwarf scale figure, but it just seemed to work so well with that scaly type aspect of Thygar. And that neck, the way that it comes up, it's just a perfect use for that head.
Yep. Yeah, it's awesome, man. And to take note, I didn't have to do a lot to that. Walter's sculpt is absolutely incredible. Yeah. I just had to put a ball with scales on the back to fill in the gap. Walter's magic is still magic.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome.
So
you want to talk bugs?
Yeah, well, I mean, someone was saying the Sphexians are their favorites. It's funny. I was more excited for the Block Commander because of the bare face. But I think once I got them in, that blue of the Prison Guard is so good.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
It's phenomenal. Now, one of the first things I did with the specs to mess with them was I went and grabbed a wing adapter.
Oh, yeah?
So I could see what he looked like with all the stuff off.
Yep.
And it just he looks totally different.
He does.
It looks like almost like maybe a worker drone, like not as fancy, like the guy that's just like hanging out and doing jobs. Maybe he works like in a Sphexian pizza shop and he's like, "Hey, mamma mia." I can do that. I'm Italian. I'm allowed to.
Oh, okay.
He's like, "Hey." But yeah, I liked them stripped down. Yeah. I thought it was cool. And if you do the neck with a normal neck, he looks even different. And this cute, beautiful little head, which has so much character, really comes to life.
Yeah, and even you pulled off the mandibles and stuff. That's something. He's got those very distinct mandibles. We haven't seen anyone customize different kind of mandibles there. I saw someone this week almost paint it like a lobster type color. And it completely changed the look of that head. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities there as well.
Yeah, they're beautiful figures. I mean, they're beautiful. Now, this wave it was different to me because there's a lot of like what we call deluxe, and I know that rages some people. Cookie, the different nomenclature of the figures, but it's worth it. Like I think like say Varg was a deluxe.
Yeah.
And he's very notable deluxe because he comes in the bigger package. He has all his pieces around him. Some of these, like, it's just the depth difference, and you don't get it until you open it and lay it all out, and you're like, okay, this is why it's deluxe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Because there are definitely people, I mean, even with the Ox Crew figures, there's a number of people that ask, why are Ox Crew figures deluxe? Like, why are these 48 versus 37? Because just looking at the images of them, you can't really tell, but by themselves, out of context, you can't really tell how big and bulky they are. Like when you see the side view of them and you see how just deep they are, they're so incredibly bulky where, between the detailed paint applications, between all the parts it comes with and the heft and bulk of that figure, that is what makes it a deluxe. But you are right. Until you get them in hand and you see all those pieces and the complexity of it, absolutely, you don't get that.
Yeah, especially, the spacesuit guys, like the wrecking crew, the scavenger crew or whatever. When I forget what I was doing. Everything was crazy. I don't think we had power when you guys meant to put them out. I don't even know. This last 3 weeks has been a blur to my life, but I wasn't watching the live. I couldn't, but I was watching Trevor's. He was putting the pictures up as soon as you would release them on his Instagram, and that seemed to work for me, Instagram only. So I was seeing him that way, and there was no way to see what that figure looked like next to another. I didn't even know that it was like a larger scale. I was like, why did they put that little tiny head on a 1.0?
Yeah.
Because that's what it looked like.
That's what, sure.
Yeah, and then someone told me.
Well, when we showed Velok, we did actually show him next to a Tusk Sentry, so people could see that difference between them. And we posted on an Instagram this week or last week.
I
You
saw
know,
that now.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's not. He's not that much taller, but if you look at the component body parts, it's so much bigger. And for those, by the way, who are waiting for the pop and swap show that Joe and I are going to do. Probably in a couple weeks, we're going to do that. It's not going to be as poppy and swappy as we sometimes do, just because of the fragility of these particular figures. I mean, like nothing on these figures is existing tooling. It is all 3D printed. So the limitations of us being able to mix and match parts are very limited, but we'll try to show a few things. And at the very least, we'll talk through some of the ideas that we have, which will hopefully give people some inspiration. But
Cool.
talking about Ox Crew and future waves, so I'm curious. Looking ahead with Mythic Legions, this first wave has landed. People are enjoying this. The feedback we've gotten so far has been incredibly positive. But we've got 3 other waves. I mean, obviously, Ox Crew is being solicited right now at Store Horseman. We've also got Grave Knight, which for people that are waiting for delivery information on Grave Knight, we hope to be able to announce that those are on the way very, very soon, like within the next couple weeks soon.
Woohoo!
And for those wondering about Poxus, it's going to be shortly behind it. So both of those are nearing completion and will be on the water pretty soon. And then into next year, we've got certainly Outpost Zaxius and then Ox Crew. So I'm curious, what other figures that have been shown so far from Cosmic are you most excited for? I know I have a couple that I'm just heavily anticipating.
I'm interested to know what figure you think I'm excited for the most.
I think you are excited for Iasipidian and Altar Silovius, the Greys.
You are correct.
Those are the ones you want.
Yep, absolutely. Because I think I said that to you before we even saw the book 1. I was like, gotta have Greys. If we don't have Greys, I don't know. Like, we gotta have Greys. Because that's like, I just love those little gray aliens. So to see that in Grave Knight, I was like, oh damn. Like, and it's good. Like it didn't, not that I ever thought it would be bad, but I was just like, it's perfect. It's skinny, it's tall,
but it's cosmic too. It's not like I felt like Eric did a really good job with those designs because he touched on the classic things you needed for a gray alien, but he didn't feel like he was pandering. It didn't feel like he was like, well, I've got to put a gray alien in there. It still feels like it belongs in Cosmarium.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I can't wait. I also can't wait for the pilot.
Okay, so who do you think I'm most excited for?
You? I don't know. That's tough. I'm looking at the website because I need to refresh and because I'm cheating because I don't have it all to memory. I'm pretty good, but I'm not all to memory good. If I had to guess, I would say that you are the most excited for. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't be excited for the pilot.
I am. So the pilot is one I am very excited for, but the pilot uses all parts we already have. So I like that one just because Joe killed it on the paint applications. But there is a character that I would say is my most anticipated for the upcoming couple waves that has some new parts.
Is it the I'm gonna say this because of parts, but I don't know if it's right. Is it the Canucks Knoll?
No, it is not.
No, okay.
So you don't know me as well as I know you, Len.
There's no critters, so I'm totally lost.
Well, he's got a crittery look to him.
I was gonna say him, but I was like, no, that's too easy.
Well, I'm a simple man.
Yeah.
I'm a simple man. So look, like when it comes to I'm a big Star Wars fan. When I was a kid, I loved Star Wars. My favorite character was Boba Fett. I love the bounty hunters. They had no screen time, but they were cool. Those were always my favorites. Novian, the Bleeders Guild are not bounty hunters. I know some people have kind of confused that. They definitely have some of the same, I guess, character traits that you would expect from cosmic style bounty hunters, but that is not what they're after. They're generally information brokers. Um, but Novian has that bounty hunter type look to him. I love that new armored chest that he's got. Both of his head portraits are just absolutely gorgeous. And, even like he's got kind of those leather boots. It's got some metal.
I was going to say, I love the boots. Their boots are awesome.
They're not as leathery boot like the ones that we've got in the new wave with Kern Ray.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look at that character.
It's got a rocket. It's got a wrist rocket.
So it's funny, Jonathan.
That's going to win.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Boba Fett. Jonathan says, can't wait to see how Imbera Jimjera turns out. So she was the character that a lot of people kind of made fun of, calling her turkey head and stuff. I got to tell you, Len, we had her in the display case at PowerCon. She was one that a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, she looks so much cooler than I expected. The fact that her body parts have like a translucent, almost smoky effect to it, like some scorpions have, and when that tail can actually bend and you can position it, she's going to be one that a lot of people are going to think their opinions on her are going to change once they have her in hand.
Yeah, I can see that, and I kind of felt that when we first showed her, and like you said, I know she got some ribbing about her looking like turkey head, and people really jumped on it, but I kind of said in my back of my mind, like, no, she's going to be the one that people are like surprised about. Like when she comes out, people are going to be like, oh shit, like this is a good figure. And I totally thought that Mumbo Jumbo was going to be good. Majamba Rumba.
Callian is another figure I'm super excited for. This particular head sculpture, which is the head sculpture from Thrace Wraithhaler, is probably my favorite female figure, like sculpture, that I've ever seen. It's certainly my favorite that Eric's done.
Is her alt head the engineer head, or is that a different head?
It is. Her alt head.
You can't even tell because there's so much paint.
It's painted so much differently, but yeah, we'll bring that up. Yeah, that is the engineer head, but even just something like those graphics that are on it, it gives it such a different look. I love that head as well.
Yeah, and the cloak is gorgeous. And now that there's a track record for like when we get them in hand, how amazing the soft goods are. So you know that when you see these shots and you think it looks good, they're going to be even better when you get them in hand. And that's funny exciting.
Because I mean, I can give you a little bit of background here on behind the scenes stuff. So we've said before that the Outpost Zaxius wave was very much created to be like a gap wave, right? And it was largely because, we knew that books 1 and 2 were going to arrive pretty close to each other. At one point, we had expected to do Ox Crew last year, but we spaced things out. So we didn't get to the next big section of the story and the next big group of new characters and tooling before fans got these in hand for the first time. So the reason we did the Zaxius wave was so we could use some parts, because there are some brand new parts in here, like the extra head with the Sphex Minor, the extra head of the V head on the gray altar. Those are new pieces that we had tooled but hadn't used previously. But largely these characters were meant to not be important characters in the overall story. They were characters that exist in the universe but weren't going to play a major role. But of course, what happens is we create these characters and we give them stories and we start to be more attracted to them. We start to care about them more. So Callian was a character that she's part of the Axor 3 company. If you read her story, she's looking for the Gorgonox. Her whole role was just to foreshadow what we see in Oxcrew. Like that was her whole role. And we ended up liking her so much that now we're starting to figure out how she fits into the other story and where she's going to come back and everything, because she ended up just being such a cool character.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's neat to be able to kind of do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Sphex Minor again, and That's a great figure. Like
Yeah,
when I think when some people first looked at it, they're like, "Oh, it's black," but there's
he's yes,
way more going on there with all
he
the.
is. So we had him in the case at PowerCon. I'm sure we'll have him at Legion's Con as well. But when people see the different detail, and I mean, you can even see it, in the photo. Like if you look at the kind of piping around the armor details, it's not just one color. It's not just black, like say the engineer is. This is definitely not a Legion builder. When you see the different subtle colors on the armor between the glossiness, the matte areas, the little grays, and then you see really the intricate details on the mandibles and the face. This is a really cool figure that is subtle in the way that a lot of the colors are applied. This is one that also got a lot of people excited and a lot of positive reactions while it was in the case at PowerCon.
Yeah, it looks great when you really look at it and think about what's going on, and I'm just super
Yeah.
excited. My word, I can't say I feel like I'm cheating on Mythic, but damn Cosmic, you got.
What what about the
Uh,
new wave? So let's talk Ox Crew. So what when you finally got to see it, you didn't watch the reveal special because you were in the dark. You followed it, but now you've had over a week to kind of absorb these characters. Um, we've been releasing the log entries on the website. I'm not even going to ask if you've been reading all the stuff I've written because I know you've been reading it, Len, and you wouldn't hurt my feelings by telling me you haven't. So we'll just assume you have. Uh, but that all being said, which of these characters are you most attracted to? Are you most excited for?
well, from an artistic point of view, and just a pure like fun look at like enjoyment type character, it's really a toss up between Orvar and Oka,
Okay, I was gonna. I
just because they're adorable and like they're
Akal was the one I figured you were gonna go
yeah,
for.
they're just cool. Like that's just they're all cool, but they're just cool. Like I love going out on a limb with art and
Yeah,
things and designs, and they do. And it's Eric like kind of being like, let me just be myself. Let me just do stuff.
yeah.
And that's super super cool.
Those are the two most alien looking of the wave for sure.
Yeah, I like them a lot. And oddly, as like kind of like a person that's really into like production and design and like
Mhm.
how things are made and different availabilities and injection molding and all that nerdy stuff. I think that the campsite collection is so cool. Like and least expect it blindside hit to my brain. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like I was like, what the hell are they really? Oh, they're doing that? Like that's awesome.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I,
cool.
I do a lot of 3D printing and I sell it and I do, but injection molding is always better. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna want the injection molded like parts, thio parts like this.
It's also big pieces. That's
Yeah.
a lot. If you had to print those crates, that's a lot of resin.
Oh yeah, and it's just not like, come on, they're painted already. They're ready to go. You throw them in on a
Yeah.
shelf with something like I don't see anyone. I as a business person, I see this as a huge crossover product, like where someone that might not even be into
Yeah.
Mythic, they're gonna buy this. Like if I'm into GI Joe Classifieds and I'm at a show and I see
Sure.
this for the price that it is,
Yeah.
buy
That's
it.
good.
Like
Good
who's
dial
not gonna
stuff.
buy that?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a brilliant move as far as filling the wave with something awesome and
Yeah.
not just giving us like more guns. Even though more accessories are great, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like that's a bold, awesome move for the company. I love it.
So obviously, I've mentioned before that Kern Ray is my favorite. I love that wasteland stranger type look. I got to tell you, I think I'm most excited for Velok and Orvar, and Ularia, but in general, I'm excited for those Ox Crew builds. Um, I'm calling it now that when people get those in hand and they start playing and posing, they are absolutely going to be blown away. When they feel the heft and bulk of those figures, coupled with the incredible amounts of articulation, the fact that Veloc has like 41 points of articulation and it moves in such unexpected parts, that all that articulation is hidden by that bulky armor. I think that's going to be one of those moments similar to, I think, when people get the new night bodies in hand and they see that new range of motion while maintaining the sculptural detail. I think that's going to be a point where people are just really, really excited. I also think that the weird creations that people are going to make with the body parts from Aka and the skate back are going to be a lot of fun to see as well.
Yeah, no, I can see that. What era of toys was that when that was the big thing to say how many points of articulation? Was that like the 90s? Remember
You
that was
know,
a thing? They were like over 80 points of articulation.
You know,
Like,
it's weird because for years I never did that. I never, like, when I would market our products, I never said how many points. And we got to the point that every time we would make a post on a new wave, people would ask how many points of articulation. They would say, how big is, like, how tall is it and how many points of articulation? And I always was thinking like, well, people know legions. They know how big these are. They're 1/12 scale, and they know, if they know legions, they know about how it moves. But the reality is, and this is great, that we're appealing to new fans, and there are new people that have never held a legion who are seeing our posts and getting interested in these figures. So we've started making it a point to report on that, to say that when we make these posts. But when I actually counted up the amount of articulation points, I was genuinely surprised by how many he had.
yeah, yeah. I think Kirby is saying that it was the Toy Fair era, and that
Uh,
tracks. That
yeah.
tracks.
You
With
said
me,
it. You
I
said
said
the
it,
thing.
and
You
I
said the
said it
thing.
in a totally natural way because that's when I was the last time, like when I was really into Toy Fair. I had a subscription and everything, and that was their big thing. They would say like
Yes.
every toy, they'd be like, oh, 37 points of articulation, duh, duh, duh," and they would count like every pivot of the neck, like,
Yeah.
and the Toy Fair, I think it was the Toy Biz Marvel Legends were the one. Remember they had like the
Yes.
flexible toes, and it was
Yep.
like they were just trying to fit it in everywhere.
Well, they also, that was the point where you also started getting figures like superposable Spider-Man. Like
Yep.
that was the name of the figure. So the whole selling point was the fact that it had some insane amount of articulation.
Yeah, yeah, and then let's face it, like a lot of times that adds up to ugly
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the aesthetic of the figure just doesn't look as good. So the art is really in hiding that. It's like Emil always says, like
Yeah.
it's amazing what the studio can do with hiding that articulation. And I don't want to double jointed elbows because they don't look right. This looks
Yep.
better aesthetically.
And I have that conversation all the time with people. And
Sure.
again, it's like I've said before, and I had a previous employer that used to always say, a man who buys a drill doesn't want a drill, he wants a hole. And okay, I that's an interesting phrase, interesting saying. I always kind of apply that to this, where someone that's asking for double elbows or double knees, I don't know if they really want that. What they're really asking for is increased range of motion. They want to be able to hit certain poses. So trying to achieve that while still maintaining the sculptural detail. And let's be honest, there's another thing we have to deal with, because we could put double knees and elbows in the figures. It's not like we don't have the capabilities. But the minute we do parts that are not compatible with the rest of the library,
Yep.
we limit ourselves and we limit our fans. So
Yep.
we've created a system. It's like if Lego started putting out sets that weren't compatible with all the other previous Lego sets.
Right. They have triangle studs on them because
Exactly.
for some
Because
reason. Yep.
we were always dealing with that. So trying to innovate and increase range of motion and articulation within the system we've already built, that's really what we're looking to do.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. It totally tracks.
I do have some, said it again, you said the thing. I do have some comments I want to go to here.
Sure.
Just
Fire away,
run through
man.
them. Andy says, we need Aka and Skate back plushies. I fully support that. That would be super fun.
George, get on that.
Kirby says, love the wave most of all. It hits the right retro futuristic notes I dig. Yeah, we've said this many times. Being able to explore different types of sci-fi are really, really cool. This wasteland type, desolate space crash. This is a common science fiction story trope that we're thrilled to put our spin on. The next major storyline is totally different kind of aesthetic. So that's a lot of fun for us to do as well. Let's see. Curtis says Orvar equals Chef's Kiss. So he's on the side of Orvar. I do like that build and that
He's
format
awesome.
there.
Curtis and Ovar, they're both awesome.
Someone did ask earlier, by the way, I saw a comment asking if we plan on doing more skate decks in the future. We do. Back to the skate decks. Obviously, we want to see how this one sells. George has already done a whole bunch of prototypes of different ones. So our goal is certainly to be able to release more skate decks on a semi-regular basis. So people that either want to collect them all can do so, or people that just want to have one or two can get their favorite pieces.
Skate backs?
Skate decks.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the skate back.
No, skate decks. Someone asked if there's going to be more skate decks.
Will there be more skate backs?
When have we ever done new tooling and not reused it for something?
Oh, okay.
We made it a point to say that this is one of the kinds of skate back races on Thraxon. So without me saying yes, I think you can probably read into the fact that you're going to see that tooling again.
Excellent. Comments.
Let's see. Going through all the comments here.
I have a question about storylines.
Sure, go ahead.
So I was thinking the other day, so are we never going to go back to the prison again? Or we're going to see century, people again, right?
Yeah, we will, obviously. I mean, those characters, the characters that we met in Valkatar, in Grave Knight, we didn't flesh out their story. We know their story. We haven't presented their story in the same way that we're presenting the Ox Crew story, but their story is certainly not done. And, one of the things with Mythic Legions, we've got this cohesive linear story, but we had to kind of piece it together from all of the disparate places that it lived. And we had to fill in a lot of blanks along the way to tie it all together. With Cosmic, Eric and I are talking story right from the beginning. Like we already know where the story goes for the next 4 years. I think.
Cool. Okay.
Like we know what the first major arc looks like. We know how these characters are going to play out throughout. So we're not filling in gaps. We know how everything shakes out. Now we're just trying to figure out the best way to present that and roll that out. But yes, we will absolutely see those characters again. And we've learned a little bit about them. So in the short stories for Outpost Zaxius, which I'm sure you've also read all of those, Len, because you read everything that I know I write.
Oh, I read it all.
You read all of it.
Yeah.
You have to for Legion's Cast, right? You have to be on top of this.
Oh, totally on top of it all.
But we find out in the story for Altar Silovius the Gray, we find out that at the end, he actually gets basically snatched by Imbera and Novian. And they're talking about the fact that they went, right to Valkatar, were part of a prison break, got out, and came right to Zaxius to retrieve this character, to retrieve Altar. So that there is a prison break. Like that is already been presented. We haven't talked about how it happens, who escapes, who maybe doesn't escape. All of that will be revealed in time.
Oh, okay, good. Because I feel like I'm just getting to know these guys from book one.
Yes.
And then I feel bad moving on because I'm just getting to know them and love them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else where, when you read a book or something, we're going to jump around from some different characters. We're going to jump around from some different storylines. The difference, I think, with that first storyline is we really didn't write out the whole first chapter. So we don't know. We know where they are. We know they start in the prison, but we don't really know at this point how that part of the story plays out. But we will. We will.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean ultimately you're wrapping that story around figure releases, and you're not going to
Yes.
release another century figure like, or not, no, not a century, but you might not release another named like kind of hero figure in every wave, because this isn't like Spider-Man. Like, you know, no
Yeah.
one wants like 50 million Spider-Man at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Thygar, there's two different versions of Thygar in the first wave. Clearly, he's an important character to the story. And anyone that knows the history of Thygar, I mean, Eric's been drawing Oleg Thygar since he was a little kid. Some of the images that I have that I'm going to share soon of the very first sculptures Eric did for the Ox Crew armor were some images that Israel Ramirez sent to us. He snapped those years ago. They're small Glyos size, but if you look at the head, it's pretty much Oleg's head on that body
Oh wow.
because he was messing around with different things back then. So that's lived for a while. He's clearly an important character. But you're right. You're not going to see Oleg in every single wave. That being said, I love, and I've said before that Cosmic has more of a toyetic feel to it. I think when I had Big Dub on, I mentioned that. In Mythic, I don't necessarily want mission focused versions of characters, but if you gave me Arctic Adventure Oleg, if you gave me Night Vision Oleg, if you gave me Aquatic Mission Oleg, I'd buy and love every one of those.
I actually agree with you, and that's a good point. I had never thought of it until you just brought that up. And yeah, and it works for the angles of even of the pops
Yep.
and the swaps and the making new things, because it just puts more parts into the fold. That's, yeah, I like that. Night
Yep.
Vision Ola confirmed, people. You heard it here.
Well, Curtis has talked about that because Curtis has talked about loving those Batman figures that had all those like crazy
Oh right,
colors
yeah,
and
yep.
mission centric type stuff. And that's a type of stuff that I would love to see that in Cosmic only because as a collector, I hated that, right? As a collector, I wanted Batman in his normal costume, and I went and all I could find was Arctic Blast Batman.
Yep.
Um, I would love the challenge of seeing how the studio approaches those type of figures, but does it in a way that is super cool and makes people actually want them. There are lots of toy lines that have done it. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like you know, it would introduce a massive amount of parts into the library for fun for pop swaps. You can do it. You know that's actually pretty cool. I'm glad Curtis thought of it.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's shift gears. Custom parts. Obviously, Wolf King Customs. That's a huge part of what you do, what you bring to the community. You had mentioned before that even mentioned it tonight that you didn't want to run too fast. You said to me in private, I don't want to be the first one. I don't want to have the first heads. I don't want to have the first parts out there. Um, I don't want to be I don't want to get it out there before I've played with the figures and really can wrap my head around how Wolf King Customs is going to approach custom parts for Cosmic, which I think was a very mature and smart approach to being able to tackle these. Some of the early parts that have come out for Cosmic, I think, have looked wonderful from a variety of different creators. But I really do love what Wolf King is doing. Emil's done a whole bunch of parts. What has been your experience in producing these parts for Cosmic Legions? What excites you and what are you looking for?
Well, I mean, just playing off of the what you just said about like kind of waiting, slow roll, see what they're like. You knew from the photos that they were different, but you didn't know how different until we had them. And yeah, we
Yep.
had test shots, but they just didn't tell us enough about like what really the intricacies of them were. Are you teasing me? So I and perfect story to kind of like explain that with like when Emil did his first heads for him. So he got his figures. Did he get them in hand first, or he just started doing them? I th- I think he. Either way, it happened really close. But
Yeah.
when he did the CA Trooper helmets, which our friend Curtis was really strong on pushing him to do them, like, you know, an army builder type. And, you know, Emil, like, instead of doing just one, he came out with what, like four, where, you know, it's like half visor, full visor, you know. It took we went back and forth for like days after the first prints were done to make sure they were right, because like the Sentry, they have a little bit of an offset to the neck that isn't from the peg, it's from the torso. So that offset made it really just not fit everything. And as soon as I started putting parts on the Sentry, I knew that not everything was going to fit on it. Not everything in our library works with the neck shields, the back pieces. And we really like went back and forth like a lot until finally the day that Emil got his in Sweden, like he got his figures, and he has a friend that has a printer in Sweden that ran some for him, and we were able to do what we had to do to make them right, because we lost some articulation to the head. I had maybe two projects that I was working on prior to getting any figures, and sure enough, it didn't work on the engineer. I had to like go in and fix it because she couldn't look up because of the way that the angles were. And it's just little stuff like that that we didn't want to like really over rush anything. And what we really try to do, and you know this because we've talked about this from day one years ago, we're trying to like accentuate, like add to the line and not like change things. We want everything that we do to really fit the aesthetic of the figure, and that's why you don't see us doing a lot of torsos or shins or forearms, or like, just because like it's just, we want to put that little bit of like little hot fudge on your extra special Sunday, right? Like, it doesn't have to be there, but if you add it, it makes it special to you. And we don't want to like totally reinvent the whole Sunday, you know, like, so to say. So I think that's one thing where sometimes my brain has me going in the direction of like, no, we need to do it all. We'll do everything. And then I'll rope back and be like, no, we're doing things to like, you know, that the artist want to do to like just change the figure a little bit, you know. But you know that because that's something we always discussed. And
Absolutely.
And I want it to fit that aesthetic. And we didn't know it. I'll be honest. I mean, even with Cosmic, we didn't know almost until the second wave got shown. Well, you knew, but you don't tell us anything. We didn't really know like until the second wave got shown what that overall like artistic look was.
Yeah.
Like where Eric's brain was going with it. So yeah, I mean, we needed to like digest that, and I think that we did, and I'm pretty happy with what we have so far.
Yeah, I think that's important. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about the artists of Team Wolfgang, whether it's, you know, Walter DeMarco, who I do a lot of work with, whether it's, you know, Emil, whether it's Steven, you know, even the painters that work with Team Wolfgang, Curtis and everybody, Patrick,
David, yep.
David for sure. I think everyone has that same love of the line. And everyone, you know, you just mentioned accentuating the line, creating things that feel like they belong in the line. I love that approach. So you're right that early on you saw that first wave, but now that we're getting a couple waves deep, even though we've got a lot of variations, we are starting to certainly see a bit of what the cosmic feel looks like. So for sculptors, it's got to be a little bit easier now to say, okay, I've got a bit more of a sense of this universe, and I can start to create characters that feel natural in this particular universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just the goal that we have. Like, I don't think any one of us are like doing it for money, like for sales. Like everyone's doing it because they want to like maybe make a custom, and I want this cool head.
Yep.
And let's see if other people want it type of thing. You know, like I don't think anyone's just like, yeah, let's just throw this out.
Well, that's how it started. Look, I mean, we've told this story a bunch of times,
Sure.
but this started with me wanting a fox head and you printing it for me and you saying like, hey, I think other people might want this too. All of those early projects were us creating things that we wanted for ourselves. And I really do think that has that has been something that has been prevalent throughout Wolf King Customs run is the artist creators are creating things that they want. And if other people want them too, all the better because clearly sales help us do more. It helps
Sure.
fuel this creativity and keep the machine rolling. But at the end of the day, we've had parts that we love that weren't super high sellers, but they're still successes to us because we got the piece we wanted. We were able to do the custom we had in our minds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fun. It's fun, and there's a big library. You know, sometimes it's staggering, like how many
Yeah.
parts there are right now. And I don't.
Yep.
And I. It's funny because there's a lot of people like. Sometimes they'll place an order, and I'll pull a part that I'm like, oh, I haven't packed this guy in a long time, and it's like you wonder. In my brain, I'm thinking like, well, I wonder where this guy, like, what made this guy tick on this. You know,
Yep.
like I sold. I packed yesterday. I packed one of the. I think we called him the Dower or the what do we call him? Emel's first vampire. Remember the one that he had
Oh
at
yeah.
Shapeways?
The sad vampire. Yeah.
Yeah, and I packed one of those for the like someone ordered one for the first time in a long, and that's an awesome head. It still
Yep.
stands up. It's
Yep.
still great.
Yep.
But we haven't sold one in a while, and I was like, man, this is cool. I hope this guy like
Yeah.
kills this, and we see it, and it's awesome because it's just neat to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's new people coming in all the time, so getting access to some of those parts. I mean, that was one of the reasons why you went to the always available, always open model, so people that come in could have access to those. I'm so as you know, I'm doing all tributes for Legions Con this year, and I recently did my Lord of the Rings ring wraiths. So I decided to do a couple other Lord of the Rings characters, and I'm doing Gimli. And I was looking at different dwarf heads that I could use for Gimli, and I literally went all the way back to those original dwarf heads that Emil did, and the one that's got it's the screaming version of it, but
Yeah,
that
yep.
one that's an old piece that I haven't thought about in a while. And just looking through my available parts, I was like, that's a perfect head. Like that's the exact head
Yeah.
that I want to do for my version of Gimli. So yeah, it's interesting how some of those old pieces can really be what I mean, heck, I did recently, whoops, pulling my microphone out. I mean, this one recently, going and doing the Acapara head, giving that
Yeah.
new life, doing my Battle Beast custom. I'm seeing a lot of people do Battle Beast customs with Cosmic Legions. That's been kind of a fun way. Certainly when it comes to critters, we've kind of got the market pretty cornered on that. So very, very cool to see people doing those as well.
Yeah, it's always neat to like pull, like I said, a part that hasn't been bought in a while. Like this the other day, I packed a couple orders with the original wolf head you and Walter did, and I was like, but it make like I said, there were different orders, so like obviously someone used it, and people saw it, and they were like, cool, because and they went and found it, and that's always really neat. It's just
Yeah.
cool when something pops up out of nowhere like that.
So there will be members of the fellowship to go with the Nazgul. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't want to make 4 hobbits. I don't feel like doing Sam and Mary as much as I like Sam and Mary. At least right now, with the time I have left between now and Legions Con, and not having an idea of how to do something uniquely different between all 4 of the hobbits, I'm not going to do the full fellowship, but I'm going to do some of the fellowship.
Well, I have to say, I have to make a comment that I think you're trying to romance me. You're already won me over. I don't know why you keep doing these Vertigo tributes. Because I know you're trying to get to me, and it's okay. I am like kind of taken, but I'm always yours, man. It's all right.
Okay,
You
well,
don't have to make all these awesome Vertigo tributes just to get to me.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I did the Boy Blue from Fables.
Yeah.
And I when I posted it yesterday, I in my comments I said sometimes there's a single accessory or a single piece, custom or otherwise, that sets me down a path for a custom. And for that one, it was the horn. I literally
Yeah.
got that horn with Father Christmas, and I was immediately like, I want to do a Boy Blue custom.
Yeah, it was funny because you hit your stuff in the morning early,
Yeah.
and it was early when I was like scrolling through, and I'm like, "The hell's this?" I'm like, and like it took a split second. I didn't even read it,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know it was you, and I'm like, "Who the hell did a Boy Blue?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like that's awesome, and I knew what it was like right away,
Right
and I'm
away,
like,
yeah.
"That's so fringe. Like people aren't gonna always get that, and it's
Yeah,
not always like you to put like a reference photo in the comments."
yeah.
And I know why you did because it's very like obscure, but like it was just cool because I knew right away. I was like, oh damn, that's cool. And I knew Delirium too the other day, like right
Yes.
away. I was like, oh shit.
So, Boy Blue, will we see more Battle Beast? I don't know if I'm going to do more Battle Beast. I had mentioned when I posted Hardtop the Turtle, he's the only Battle Beast I had as a kid. So that's why I did that one. I'm seeing a lot of other people do them as well, which I think is really, really cool. I mean, there's others I could certainly do. I look at the design. So I'm not saying I won't do another Battle Beast, but right now I personally don't have any plans for it.
I never had those as a kid. It's like it wasn't even in my like, I don't know if it was, yeah. Like I didn't really know much about them. Maybe it
Yeah.
missed me by a year or two, but I wasn't really.
So
that
here we've got a
into them.
comment going down a rabbit hole with Battle Beast tributes. I blame Jeremy and Emil. Yeah, Emil did a great one as well. That's kind of, I think that was the first one that I saw that really started that ball rolling. I know when I saw his, I was like, ooh, that's kind of a cool thing. Because I was thinking about how do my parts that already exist, my library of pieces I've worked on, fit into Cosmic, and certainly Cosmic Critters is a really easy place to go. So the minute you go to Cosmic Critters, Battle Beasts are a logical place to go to. Will the Legions Con 2-pack be issued separately? Yes, it will be. So like we do with all Legions Con figures, exclusive sets, it will be released next year as single carded figures, just like we did with this year's Furious 4 figures.
I love that orange Sentry. I love those colors. And it's funny because I don't think I told you this before you revealed those that day.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. I was talking to Walter about something like a day or two before,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about colors. And
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I know you like orange and black because of Harley Davidson,
Mm-hmm.
because he loves his Harley. And I'm
Yep.
like, I know those are your colors. And then when you drop that figure just totally randomly, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, well that's perfect. It's orange. Like that's awesome. It was just
It just worked.
absolutely perfect for him.
So Maverick saying, I'm curious to hear about the Wolf King Customs panel for this year's Legions Con. I don't know if I'd call it a panel, but we haven't formalized plans for this. But last year at Legions Con, you did a breakout session. Curtis, helped lead that with a number of people in, I would say, the Wolf King extended family.
Sure.
That went really, really well. Talk a little bit about what you did last year, and then we'll talk about what some of the things we've been discussing for 2023.
Well, last year, what we tried to do was a introductory type of seminar, hands-on breakaway room for pop and swap, basic kit bashing. Like people that we really tried to get people over the course of the
Mm-hmm.
2 days to like talk to them if they weren't familiar with it. We literally like gave them like a special like token and said like literally a token that said join this breakout room, and they were, so it was like invite only because we really just wanted people that didn't know about
Yeah.
it to like introduce them to that.
Yeah.
And we brought a ton of parts. I brought a ton of parts,
Yeah.
like not ranging from Mythic parts to Lord of the Rings fodder to whatever. Exactly, you loved it, and
Oh,
and
yeah. I was
Curtis
all
brought
over it.
all kinds of parts,
Yeah.
and we just like let people have at it. But beyond that, I asked some people in our world that like I knew would enjoy doing it, like Dork Lair and Jesse and Lou
Yep.
Torres, and a lot of people, and David Williams. I asked them to come and help Patrick and take a small group. So you'd have a group of two or three. I asked, of course, a
Mhm.
group of two or three people to work with, and
Yep.
so it was more hands on. And we had a heat gun, and you could go, and you as an instructor would like take that person the full step, like the full to create a
Yep.
character, and people had a lot of fun.
They
It was a
did.
lot of fun. Yeah.
I remember I would take a Legion's figure because that was the one rule. They had to bring a Legion's figure. You were like, go to the
Yes.
Horseman table,
Yeah.
buy a Legion builder, bring it in. So I remember dealing with someone who had never customized, never pop and swapped, and we had a Dark Templar, and I showed him. I pulled an arm off, and I showed him how it's done, and then I handed it back to him, and I said, "Okay, you pull the other one." And to see him like get worried that he's going to break this toy, pull that arm off, and then his eyes just light up when he realized, oh my goodness, these are totally modular. I can just easily pop these off, and I'm not going to break this. That sense of discovery was really cool to see. So we've talked about for 2023 wanting to build on that. One of the things that we learned from the breakout sessions in 2022 is the ones where there was someone at a table talking to the audience weren't as well received as the ones where the audience was learning something, or even in some cases doing something. Not every session is going to be hands-on, but we really want to focus more on educational type sessions that teach people how to do new things. So we'd love to expand on what you were doing for the popping and swapping and basic customizations. One of the things you mentioned last year was wanting to maybe do some of that stuff on day one and then partner with some painters for day
Yeah.
two to say like, okay, now you've cobbled together your figure, you've got a custom part here or whatever. Let's talk about some paint basics and actually get them putting down some base layers on some figure parts, custom or otherwise, so they can get a feel for what simple customization actually looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. That would, all good things. Like even last year with it, it was, I had so many things in my brain that I just couldn't
Yeah.
get to like work because you run out of time and you don't have the resources, and
Yeah.
you think about things afterwards. And that was
Yeah.
one thing you and I both discussed afterwards. And I had thought of it before, but man, it would be awesome to have a partner with
Yes.
another breakout session that would help them not create, like, not repaint the entire figure, but do the tiny
Do some basics.
details.
Yeah.
How does a paintbrush work? Like,
Yep.
what kind of paints do you
Yep.
use? To really like just figure the process, and then have these people like have finished version figures at the end of the event. Like,
And that
would be
was
really cool.
Eric Miller did a session on painting eyes that was very well received as well. But even, yeah, Eric doing a session on some paint basics and stuff. Because, I mean, heck, I've said that so many times. Doing those basic tutorials are the ones that I always get the best feedback on, because those are the ones that get people, from zero to starting. Those are the
Yep.
ones that get people to start actually trying it and having fun. I had a good comment here that I wanted to bring back up. Good friend of both of ours that we've seen at a lot of shows. Mark is saying, my parents really enjoyed the Wolf King session and they still proudly display their figures.
That's awesome.
That,
Yeah, that was great
awesome.
having them in there. Yeah, his
Yeah.
mom had a good time too, and that was
Yeah,
so
they're
cool.
awesome people.
Yeah, Curtis, like, shout out to him because he helped me massively with that. Like, I couldn't have
Yeah.
pulled that whole thing off without him.
Even like, so Curtis saying it was cool seeing folks like Old Man Kyle do his first pop and swap. I mean, Old Man Kyle, someone who's around customizers. He's around Steven. He's around, Bill and everybody. He's around Travis, who has all these parts and pieces, but having never done it himself, even him getting in there and being like, okay, I can do this and work with all these different parts. Yeah, that was very,
Yeah.
very cool.
Was Chris Kelly in your group?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then another guy, he's been around toys a lot. Like,
Yep.
he's been around the
He,
toy world, and you could see it in his face. He was like,
yep.
"Whoa."
Yeah, Eric, I'll be talking to you. You were one I definitely wanted to rope into doing that for us. Chris, I think, was the person who, remember there was a point where I like called the whole room to attention, and
Oh,
I was like,
absolutely. That's my
everybody
favorite story to tell.
look, everyone, like, because clearly there's a whole room of people doing, and I had to for a moment stop everything and show everybody something. But you brought out that figure from League of Legends, I believe it was. That figure that a lot of people have used. I don't know the name of
Yeah,
the
the
figure.
Creech. I think his name was the Creech. It was like a
He's got
phantom
like a weird like lantern, like a
lantern.
green
Yep.
lantern, but he's got a long skirt that, like a lot of Lord of the Rings figures, if you break him at the waist, the skirt just comes right off, and you can put it right on a Legion. So I remember doing that where I showed people, look, a figure like this. I snapped it in front of everybody, pulled the skirt off, put it on the other figure, reconnected it, and Chris was like, "Oh, this thing is so cool!" And that ended up being the base of the figure that he decided to go forward with.
Yeah, I mean, let's not sell the event short. You jumped up on a chair,
I
you
did.
held it over your head, and you mightily cracked it in half, and we're like, ah!
Yeah, I did.
And
I might.
all eyes in the room were in shock and horror of you breaking a toy,
So,
and then pure ecstasy when they saw you piecing it together with a Mythic Legion. I tell the story much more excitingly.
you, I was definitely for those people. I tend to have a lot of energy anyway. I ramp it up at Legion's Con. It is quite literally my favorite weekend of the year. It's like literally Legion's Con, Christmas. Like that's like one and two.
That's saying a lot. I know you love Christmas.
I do love
I
Christmas.
know.
But hey, there's nothing like Legion's Con. So I'm on a whole different level at Legion's Con. So, Len, we are coming up on 9 o'clock now. It has gone by. Episode 150 is almost in the books. Anything that you want to tell everyone about? Anything going on with Wolf King Customs? Any new sales happening that we should know about?
Basically, I am restocking the availability of book one, and that's awesome. So, like, look for that super soon. I'm gonna
Cosmic Legion.
pair.
So
Yes,
you
Cosmic.
sold out of some Cosmic Legions, but you've got some more coming in to restock for people
Yep.
that are looking to get Cosmic One from Wolf King Customs.
Right, and that's gonna like I am gonna do some things where I pair them up with some new parts too, like where you can get a figure, get a part type thing. There's some new parts that I wasn't able to get to because of some different confusion in my personal life in the last 2 weeks, and they're gonna be out.
Cool.
New things, and I got Mythic stuff coming too because I didn't forget about your first love.
Mhm.
I found one or two new artists that I've been working with that are like pretty talented dudes. So I'm really excited to see some of their parts like come out into our world. And of course, RetroCon is coming, and
Retrocon, yeah.
I'm gonna put I'm gonna put on a show. Like it's gonna be big. Like there's gonna be we're gonna do giveaways starting at noon on the hour every hour. So like we want to really have that community of all of our friends, all of our people to hang out all day with us. Like just come hang out. Like come back. Go out, check the show out in an hour, come back and hang. Because that's the best part about doing these shows, right? Is you get to hang out with your buddies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're all friends, and like it's gonna be fun to see all those line guys that like are there at 4 in the morning. Like
Oh yeah.
we're gonna take care of you. That's what I said. Make sure you wear something Cabal related, whatever. It's gonna be a fun party. So I definitely am super excited for that.
And then, of course, Wolf King is going to have a very large presence at Legion's Con this year.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, literally, we haven't released the full map yet, but when you walk in the main doors, the block of tables here are all studio. It's Nate Barch in all the studio. The block of tables on the other side is literally Team Wolf King.
Yep.
So it is very much Wolf King and the whole group around Wolf King, the wonderful people you've surrounded yourself with. That is going to be where all that stuff is. So very, very exciting. Curtis is asking if we are getting a Wolf King Customs holiday special this year.
Well, if the CEO asked for it, we got to do it.
We did skip last year. We canceled Christmas last year
We
because
did.
we couldn't get our stuff together. So it's not even September and we're being asked. So I think we have enough time to actually plan that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we are going to have to do this year because that's a lot of fun. And it's honestly something I didn't realize everyone loves so much, but they
Yeah,
did.
I thought it was just us indulging ourselves,
I
but
know.
yeah. Most important question: will we see Drunk Len at Legion's Con on Saturday night again this year?
Oh, I don't know. You never know. It depends.
It's a surprise.
It's always a surprise. I don't. The party might be too big. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know. If the dragons transport well, then maybe.
You gotta bring the dragons.
Let's just say there's no way I'm not going to bring at least one of them, and I have two. So
Oh, awesome. Well, Len, thank you so much for joining me tonight, making my 150th episode a special episode, one to remember. Of course, I always enjoy talking to you. I look forward to hearing about all the adventures from RetroCon. And of course, I look forward to seeing you and giving you big hugs at Legion's Con this year.
absolutely, buddy. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your 150, even if I was your second pick.
But a
I know it's
strong
okay.
second. A
It's
strong second.
I would choose your number one over you any day.
There we go. Thank
No
you,
offense,
everyone.
but I would.
I will see you here next week. Thank you all. 150 episodes. Have a good night.